Hi guys, Joe here and welcome to 750 Gaming. In this one we'll look at how I kitbashed together my quick and dirty flayed ones for my Novok Dynasty Necrons. So I'm putting together a Novok Dynasty Necron army as one of my 750 projects, and as the Novok Dynasty are famed for their all up in your face want to bite it off mentality, it makes sense for the army to include some units that, kind of do that. So I knew from the outset that I was going to want a load of flayed ones in my army to fit that thematic fluff. They are very cheap points wise, and so you can either include a little unit of 5 just to make up a few points here at the end of a list and use them as a throwaway in a battle to annoy or occupy an enemy unit, or you can bring them a little bit more en masse, which is what I intend to do, despite that creating a whole host of models to theoretically purchase, assemble and paint. But this is 750 Gaming, and around here we like to do things quick and dirty if we can, to save time and money, but still create something worth playing with. So here goes. You can pick up a box of 5 official Games Workshop Necron Flayed Ones for around 30 quid depending on where you shop, but as ever, we want to do more for less. I made a bunch of my own quick and dirty flayed ones previously, and someone asked me on Instagram how I did them. Fortunately, I wanted another 10, so in the spirit of quick and dirty, here's a very low end video of how I made them. Thanks to all the various Indomitus release boxes from 9th edition, there are still a hatful of Necron Warriors sprues doing the rounds on the second hand market. You may even find that you have a load in your pile of potential, just waiting for an opportunity to be used. These will be perfect, the only caveat being base size. Flayed ones should be on 28mm bases to optimise their efficiency in combat, i.e. you can squeeze them into gaps to swarm the enemy, or keep them tucked away and harder to engage and therefore protected from the harder hitting stuff. Necron Warriors come with 32mm bases. I personally don't mind or care, and the chances are if you're a kitbasher, converter, customizer type person like me, you won't either. And if you're playing with the like-minded, your opponent will likely just be infused to take on your swarm of bloodthirsty robot skeletons and not give a hoot. But I thought it was worth mentioning. Anyway, start by assembling the body of your Necron Warrior. And you can be as precise as you like here. Sort out the gaps and the mould lines to your heart's content, but you really don't need to bother, as we're going to be covering all that up in a bit anyway. Then you need some arms. We don't need the hands that hold the guns or the guns, and we don't need to worry about orientation and fitting them all in to get that model assembled properly. So cut off any of those extra bits on the ends, and with some super glue or plastic cement, just get those arms on and posed however you desire. Then we're going to use some bits of sprue that would otherwise end up in the bin, and with a new sharp blade we're going to start shaping these straight bits of plastic into spiky metal rending claw type things. Be very, very careful. A sharp blade will of course make your life so much easier, but it will bring more peril to your thumbs. They say never cut towards yourself, which is very wise, but this is the way I found it was easiest to do it. Copy this technique at your own risk, etc. I like to try and carve a point and get a bit of a curved blade look, and I trim down the arm joining in so that there's a nice transition from arm to blade. And don't forget to do a few spiky bits for those metal mutation-y bits on the flayed ones' backs as well, but mix it up so they don't all look the same. Trim off the ends of the arms if you haven't done so already, so we have a nice flat surface to glue to, and get all your spiky bits stuck on, and hopefully it'll look a bit like this. Now comes the fun bit. Get some bog standard PVA or white glue, I think I got this for £1 from Home Bargains, and create a watered down mix. 50-50 maybe, you don't need to be precise. Think paper mache consistency. You can of course use Mod Podge for this if you want, but this is cheaper and just as effective. Then get some cheap as chips kitchen roll, tear off a few random bits here and there, and with an old small brush you don't mind ruining, start fleshing up your spiky skelly guy. It's going to be in the eye of the beholder, only you'll know when you're happy with it and when it meets the look you're going for. But this is where you get to cover up all the inaccuracies and why this saves a whole lot of time. You can assemble the torso and bits of the Necron as roughly and ready as you like. Don't worry about the instructions or which bit actually fits and locates with each bit. Just cut them all off the sprues, assemble and pose them how you like, warts and all, and then cover all those grotty things up with kitchen paper flesh. Do your bases as you wish to, I just use plain old sand. Lovely stuff. If you're happy to prime in grey, then here's your wallet hack. This stuff costs £2 to £3 from Poundland here in the UK, and it just works. Why pay 10, 12, 15, 20 quid for a primer if you don't have to? But once primed and all in one colour again, we can see how we're looking. Yeah, it's starting to look alright. Now if you want a fancy and detailed painting guide for how to do Necrons full of non-metallic metal, blended tones and edge highlights, then this bit really won't be for you. But if you want a quick idea of what I use and how I paint tabletop standard colours onto these monstrosities, then yeah, keep watching. Base colours first. For the metal bits, lead belcher, or another silver metallic. I use Citadel paints predominantly, as that's what my friendly local gaming store stock, but it doesn't really matter. The fleshy bits, base coat in an off-white, and I use Wraithbone. And then for the red bits, i.e. the face and any shoulder bits not covered by the flesh, I use Mephiston Red. Then I wash it liberally with Nuln Oil to really get into the crevices. Restore a bit more silvery metal to any metal bits that got over Nuln Oiled, and the same for the flesh, with your off-white again. Now classically the Novok dynasty are silver, with red faces and shoulder bits to represent how they cover themselves in the blood of their enemies. Lovely stuff. I, however, don't really like that silver and red combination, so I go for a slightly more old and dirty rusty bronzy colour for my metals, and I achieve this with washes to act as filters over a metallic base. Now, they say variety is the spice of life, and not all metal ages the same way, and not all flesh is the same colour. And who's to say that all these flesh capes have the same level of decay going on? So feel free to experiment with shades, but I generally use Seraphim Sepia, Agrex Earthshade or Reichland Flesh Shade, or a combination of them. For this one I've just gone with the sepia tone, and you can be liberal again all over, but try and wick away any big bits of pooling. When that's dry, you want to dry brush highlight all your flesh this time, again with Wraithbone, just to bring out a bit of contrast. Dry brush up all the metal and spiky bits again, just to remind you that these guys are made of metal, and to give the bladey bits that hint of gleaming, horrific sharpness, and of course restore any red you need to the red bits. For the bases, as with everything, you need to visit the colour wheel to see what you think is going to help these guys to just pop a bit from their context. For that reason, my Necrons look to be marching on a nice green pasture, ready to devour all organic life in their path. Though that does sound a bit tyrannidy now, to be honest. Anyway, moot green for me, with any rocks in grey, sepia wash, and a dry brush your grass with a bit of yellow, a la your classic Old Hammer retro goblin green bases. And don't forget your rims, or whatever, you do you. And there you have it, one more flayed one to join the horde. And it really didn't take all that long, and if you're going to do them all in a batch, quicker still. The biggest amount of time is the sculpting of the spiky bits from the sprue plastic, but the assembly is so quick because you don't need to be neat, and the paint job is, well, as the rest of it, quick and dirty. You can of course spend as much time on yours as you choose, but I'll have 20 of these things ready by the time I've finished, and I'm not planning to spend any longer on them than I have to, and actually I'm pretty happy with how they've turned out for how little care and attention I've put into them so far. Maybe I'll come back and just make the faces pop out a little bit more with a highlight, and in future I might come back to the spiky bits now that I've got a Dremel tool and shape them a little more cleaner, shall we say. But there you go. Eventually there'll be 20 Necron Flayed Ones ready to dive into the fray and bite some faces off. Or, just get shot off the table turn one. Who can say? If you enjoyed this or thought it was a good idea, then hit that like button for me. And if you're planning on making your own using this idea, or you've got your own way, then let me know in the comments, as I'd love to hear from you, as always. And hopefully, I'll see you again. Thanks for watching. Let's go! As always, I just do this for fun and make these videos when I can. I don't have a regular release schedule, they just happen when they happen. So, if you want to make sure you don't miss a beat over the next few months and going forward, then hit subscribe so you can catch these when they come. If you enjoyed this or any of my other videos, then do hit that like button, as it really helps boost my ego, and do come check me out on Instagram for all my hobbying updates. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.